His cheeks were tinged with pink with cold, his dark hair ruffled, and he honestly looked freezing as he stood there, wind stocked in tight. And I knew that one word from me, and he'd go flying off into the crisp night. That if I shut the door, he'd go and not push it. His nostrils flared, scenting the pain behind me. But he didn't break his stare, waiting. Mate. My mate. This beautiful, strong, selfless male who had sacrificed and wrecked himself for his family, his people, and didn't feel it was enough. That he wasn't enough for anyone. Asriel thought he didn't deserve someone like Moore, and I wonder if Reese, if he somehow felt the same about me. I stepped aside, holding the door open for him. He does feel the same way. I promise you that. I could have sworn I felt a pulse of knee-wobbling relief through the bond. But Reese took in the painting I'd done, gobbling down the bright colors that now made the cottage come alive, and said, "You painted us. I hope you don't mind." He studied the threshold to the bedroom hallway. Asriel, Moore, Amron, and Cassian, he said, marking the eyes I'd painted. "You do know that one of them is going to paint a mustache under the eyes of whoever pisses them off that day." I clamped my lips to keep the smile in. "Oh, Moore already promised to do that." "And what about my eyes?" I swallowed. "All right then, no dancing around it." My heart was pounding so wildly I knew he could hear it. I was afraid to paint them. Reese faced me fully. "Why?" "No more games, no more banter. At first, because I was so mad at you for not telling me. Then because I was worried I liked them too much and find that you didn't feel the same. Then because I was scared that if I painted them, I'd start wishing you were here so much that I'd just stare at them all day. And it seemed like a pathetic way to spend my time." A twitch of his lips. "Indeed." I glanced at the shut door. "You flew here." He nodded. "Moore wouldn't tell me where you'd gone, and there are only so many places that are as secure as this one. Since I didn't want our Highburn friends tracking me to you, I had to do it the old-fashioned way. It took a while." "You're better?" "Healed completely. Quickly, considering the blood vein. Thanks to you." I avoided his stare, turning for the kitchen. "You must be hungry. I'll heat something up." Reese straightened. "You'd make me food?" "Heat," I said. "I can't cook." It didn't seem to make a difference. But whatever it was, the act of offering him food, I dumped some cold soup into a pan and lit the burner. "I don't know the rules," I said, my back to him. "So you need to explain them to me." He lingered in the center of the cabin, watching my every move. He said hoarsely, "It's it's an important moment when a female offers her mate food. It goes back to whatever beast we were a long, long time ago. But it still matters. The first time matters. Some mated pairs will make an occasion of it, throwing a party just so the female can formally offer her mate food. That's usually done amongst the wealthy, but it means that the female accepts the bond." I stared into the soup. "Tell me the story. Tell me everything." He understood my offer. Tell me while I cooked, and I'd decide at the end whether or not to offer him that food. A chair scraped against the wood floor as he sat on the table. For a moment there was only silence, interrupted by the clack of my spoon against the pot. Then Reese said, "I was captured during the war by Amarantha's army." I paused my staring, my gut twisting. Cashin and Asriel were in different legions, so they had no idea that my forces and I had been taken prisoner, and that Amarantha's captains held us for weeks, torturing and slaughtering my warriors. They put ash bolts through my wings, And they had those same chains from the other night to keep me down. Those chains are one of Hybern's greatest assets. Stone delved from deep in their land, capable of nullifying high face powers, even mine. So they chained me up between two trees, beating me when they felt like it, trying to get me to tell them where the Night Core forces were, using my warriors, their deaths and pain to break me. Only I didn't break, he said roughly. And they were too dumb to know that I was an Illyrian, and all they had to do was to get me to yield would have been to try and cut off my wings. And maybe it was luck, but they never did. And Amarantha, she didn't care that I was there. I was yet another High Lord's son, and Jurian had just slaughtered her sister. All she cared about was getting to him, killing him. I was willing to make it my last stand, to kill her at any cost, even if it meant shredding my wings to break free. I'd watch the guards and learn her schedule, so I knew where she'd be. I set a date and a time, and I was ready. I was so damn ready to make an end of it, and wait for Cassian and Asriel and more on the other side. There was nothing but my rage, and my relief that my friends weren't there. But the day before I was to kill Amarantha, to make my final stand and meet my end, she and Jurian faced each other on the battlefield. He paused, swallowing. I was chained in the mud, forced to watch as they battled, to watch as Jurian took my killing blow. Only she slaughtered him. I watched her rip out his eye, then rip off his finger. And when he was prone, I watched her drag him back to the camp. Then I listened to her slowly, over days and days, tear him apart. His screaming was endless. She was so focused on torturing him that she didn't detect my father's arrival. In the panic, she killed Jurian rather than see him liberated, and fled. So my father rescued me and told his men, told Asriel, to leave the ash spikes in my wings as punishment for getting caught. I was so injured that the healers informed me that if I tried to fight before my wings healed, I'd never fly again. So I was forced to return home to recover, while the final battles were waged. Fuck. This is already getting rough, and there is plenty of chapter left. Okay. They made the treaty, and the wall was built. We'd long ago freed our slaves in the Night Court. We didn't trust the humans to keep our secrets, knowing they bred so quickly and frequently that my forefathers couldn't hold all their minds at once. But our world was changed nonetheless. We were all changed by the war. Cassian and Asriel came back different. I came back different. Nobody comes back unchanged from a war. We came here, to this cabin. I was still so injured that they carried me here between them. We were here when the messages arrived about the final terms of the treaty. They stayed with me when I roared at the stars that Amarantha, for all she had done, for every crime she committed, would go unpunished. That the king of Hybern would go unpunished. Too much killing had occurred on either side for everyone to be brought to justice, they said. Even my father gave me an order to let it go, to build towards a future of coexistence. But I never forgave Amarantha for what Amarantha had done to my warriors, and I never forgot it either. Tamlin's father, he was her friend. And when my father slaughtered him, I was so damn smug that perhaps she'd feel an inkling of what I'd felt when she murdered my soldiers. My hands were shaking as I stirred the soup. I never known, never thought. When Amarantha returned to these shores centuries later, I still wanted to kill her. The worst part was that she didn't even know who I was. didn't even remember that I was the High Lord's son that she'd held captive. To her, I was merely the son of the men who had killed her friend. I was just the High Lord of the Night Court. The other High Lords were convinced she wanted peace and trade. Only Tamlin mistrusted her. I hated him, but he knew Amarantha personally, and if he didn't trust her, I knew she hadn't changed. So I planned to kill her. I told no one, not even Emran. I let Amarantha think that I was interested in trade, in alliance. I decided I'd go to the party thrown under the mountain for all the courts to celebrate our trade agreement with Hybern. And when she was drunk, I'd slip into her mind, make her reveal every lie and crime she committed, and then I'd turn her brain into liquid before anyone could react. I was prepared to go to war for it. I turned, leaning against the counter. Reese was looking at his hands as if the story were a book he could read between them. But she thought faster, acted faster. She had been trained against my particular skill set and had extensive mental shields. I was so busy working to tunnel through them that I didn't think about the drink in my hand. I hadn't wanted Cassian or Asriel or anyone else there that night to witness what I had to do. So no one bothered to sniff my drink. And as I felt my powers being ripped away by that spell she'd put on it at the toast, I flung them out one last time, wiping Valaris, the words, all that was good from the minds of the Court of Nightmares, the only ones that allowed to come with me. I threw the shield around Valaris, binding it to my friends so they had to remain or risk that protection collapsing, and used the last dregs to tell them mind to mind what was happening and to stay away. Within a few seconds, my power belonged wholly to Amarantha. Fucking hell. That had to be so fucking hard. And I promise you he didn't hesitate. Jeez. Okay. I hope so, Rachel. His eyes lifted to mine, haunted, bleak. She slaughtered half the Core of Nightmares right then and there to prove to me that she could, as vengeance for Tamlin's father. And I knew in that moment there was nothing I wouldn't do to keep her from looking at my court again, from looking too long at who I was and what I loved. So I told myself that it was a new war, a different sort of battle. And that night, when she kept turning her attention to me, I knew what she wanted. I knew it wasn't about fucking me so much as it was about getting revenge at my father's ghost. But if that was what she wanted, then that was what she would get. I made her beg and scream and used my lingering powers to make it so good for her that she wanted more, craved more. I gripped the counter to keep from sliding to the ground. Then she cursed Tamlin, and my other great enemy became the one loophole that might free us all. Every night that I spent with Amarantha, I knew she was half wondering if I tried to kill her. I couldn't use my powers to harm her, and she had shielded herself against physical attacks. But for 50 years, whenever I was inside her, I'd think about killing her. She had no idea. None. Because I was so good at my job that she thought I enjoyed it too. So she began to trust me. More than the others, especially when I proved what I could do to her enemies. But I was glad to do it. I hated myself, but I was glad to do it. After a decade, I stopped expecting to see my friends or my people again. I forgot what their faces looked like, and I stopped hoping. Silver gleamed in his eyes, and he blinked it away. 3 years ago, he said quietly, I began to have these dreams. At first, they were glimpses. as if I were staring through someone else's eyes. A crackling hearth in a dark home, a bale of hay in a barn, a warren of rabbits. The images were foggy, like looking through cloudy glass. They were brief, a flash here and there every few months. I thought nothing of them until one of the images was of a hand. This beautiful human hand holding a brush, painting, flowers on a table. My heart stopped beating. And that time I pushed. I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it. And that time I pushed the thought back of the night sky, of the image that brought me joy when I needed it most. Open night sky, stars, and the moon. I didn't know if I was received, but I tried anyway. I knew he had something to do with this. I wasn't sure if I was breathing. Those dreams, the flashes of that person, that woman, I treasured them. They were a reminder that there was some peace out there in the world, some light, that there was a place and a person who had enough safety to paint flowers on a table. They went on for years, until a year ago. I was sleeping next to Amarantha, and I jolted awake from this dream that was clearer and brighter, like that fog had been wiped away. You, were dreaming. I was in your dream, watching, watching as you had a nightmare about some woman slitting your throat while you were chased by the boggy. I couldn't reach you, speak to you, but you were seeing our kind, and I realized that the fog had probably been the wall, and that you were now in Prythian. I saw you through your dreams, and I hoarded the images, sorting through them over and over again, trying to place where you were, who you were. But you had such horrible nightmares, and the creatures belonged to all courts. I'd wake up with your scent in my nose, and it would haunt me all day, every step. But then one night, you dreamed of standing amongst green hills, seeing unlit bonfires for Kalanmat. That's how he went there for her. He went there for her. I've been looking for you. That makes sense now. God damn it. This this fucking writer. This writer. Okay. There was such silence in my head. I knew there was only one celebration that large. I knew those hills, and I knew you'd probably be there. So I told Amarantha. Reese swallowed. I told her that I wanted to go to the spring court for the celebration, to spy on Tamlin, and see if anyone showed up wishing to conspire with him. We were so close to the deadline for the curse that she was paranoid, restless. She told me to bring back traitors. I promised her I would. His eyes lifted to mine again. I got there, and I could smell you. So I tracked that scent, and there you were. Human. Utterly human. And being dragged away by those piece of shit Picts who wanted to. He shook his head. I debated slaughtering them then and there, but then they shoved you, and I just moved. I started speaking without knowing what I was saying, only that you were there, and I was touching you, and he loosed a shuddering breath. There you are. I've been looking for you. His first words to me. Not a lie at all. Not a threat to keep those fairies away. Thank you for finding her for me. I had the vague feeling of the world slipping out from under my feet like sand washing away from the shore. You looked at me, Ree said, and I knew you had no idea who I was. that I might have seen your dreams, but you hadn't seen mine, and you were just human. You were so young and breakable and had no interest in me whatsoever. And I knew that if I stayed too long, someone would see and report back, and she'd find you. So I started walking away, thinking you'd be glad to get rid of me. But then you called after me. Yeah, like you couldn't let go of me just yet, whether you knew it or not. And I knew. I knew we were on dangerous ground somehow. I knew that I could never speak to you, or see you, or think of you again. I didn't want to know why you were in Prithian. I didn't even want to know your name, because seeing you in my dreams had been one thing, but in person, right then, deep down, I think I knew what you were, and I didn't let myself admit it, because if there was the slightest chance that you were my mate, they would have done such unspeakable things to you, Feyre. So I let you walk away. I told myself after you were gone that maybe the Calderon had been kind and not cruel for letting me see you. Just once. A gift for what I was enduring. And when you were gone, I found those three pigs. I broke into their minds, reshaping their lives, their histories, and dragged them before Amarantha. I made them confess to conspiring to find other rebels that night. I made them lie and claim that they hated her. I watched her carve them up while they were still alive, protesting their innocence. I enjoyed it because I knew what they wanted to do to you. And I knew that it would have paled in comparison to what Amarantha would have done if she'd find you. I wrapped a hand around my throat. I had my reasons to be out then, he once said to me, under the mountain. Do not think, Feyre, that it did not cost me. Rhys kept staring at the table as he said, I didn't know that you were with Tamlin, that you were staying at the Spring Court. Amarantha sent me that day after... Sorry. I didn't know that you were with Tamlin, that you were staying at the Spring Court. Amarantha sent me that day after the summer solstice because I'd been so successful on Calamni. I was prepared to mock him, maybe pick a fight. But then I got into that room, and the scent was so familiar, but hidden. And then I saw the plate and felt the glamour, and there you were, living in my second most enemy's house, dining with him, reeking of his scent. Look at him like you loved him. The whites of his knuckles showed. Ooh. And I decided that I had to scare Tamlin. I had to scare you and Lucien, but mostly Tamlin, because I saw how he looked at you too. So what I did that day, his lips were pale, tight. I broke into your mind and held it enough that you felt it, that it terrified you, hurt you. I made Tamlin beg, as Amarantha had made me beg, to show him how powerless he was to save you. And I prayed my performance was enough to get him to send you away, back to the human realm, away from Amarantha, because she was going to find you if you broke that curse. She was going to find you and kill you. But I was so selfish. I was so stupidly selfish that I couldn't walk away without knowing your name. And you were looking at me like I was a monster. So I told myself it didn't matter anyway. But you lied when I asked. I knew you did. I had your mind in my hands, and you had the defiance and foresight to lie to my face. So I walked away from you. Again. I vomited my guts up as soon as I left. Quick tea break. This is rough. That had to break him. That had to absolutely fucking break him. Oh, all right. There we go. My lips wobbled, and I pressed them together. I checked back once to ensure you were gone. I went with them the day that they sacked the manor to make my performance complete. I told Amarantha the name of that girl, think you'd invented it. I had no idea. I had no idea she'd sent her cronies to retrieve Claire. But if I admitted my lie, he swallowed hard. I broke into Claire's head when they brought her under the mountain. I took away her pain and told her to scream when expected to. So they did those things to her. And I tried to make it right, but after a week I couldn't let them do it. Hurt her like that anymore. So while they tortured her, I slipped into her mind again and ended it. She didn't feel any pain. She felt none of what they did to her, even at the end. But but I still see her in my men and the others that I killed for Amarantha. Two tears slid down his cheeks, swift and cold. He didn't wipe them away, as he said. I thought he was done after that, with Clara's death. Amarantha believed you were dead, so you were safe and far away, and my people were safe, and Tamlin had lost, so it was done. We were done. But then, I was in the back of the throne room that day the Adder brought you in, and I have never known such horror, Feyre, as I did when I watched you take that bargain. Irrational, stupid horror. I didn't know you. I didn't even know your name. But I thought of those painter's hands, the flowers I'd seen you create, and how she'd delight in breaking your fingers apart. I had to stand and watch as the Adder and its cronies beat you. I had to watch in the disgust and hatred on your face as you looked at me. Watch me threaten to shatter Lucian's mind. And then I learned your name. Hearing you say it was like an answer to a question I'd been asking for 500 years. I decided, then and there, that I was going to fight. And I would fight dirty, and kill and torture and manipulate, but I was going to fight. If there was a shot, if there was a shot of freeing us from Amarantha, you were it. I thought that Caldron had been sending me these dreams to tell me that you would be the one to save us, save my people. So I watched your first trial, pretending, always pretending to be the person you hated. But you were hurt so badly against the worm, I found my way in with you. A way to defy Amarantha, to spread the seeds of hope to those who knew how to read the message, and a way to keep you alive without seeming too suspicious, and a way to get back at Tamlin. To use him against Amarantha, yes, but to get back at him for my mother and sister, and for having you. And we made that bargain. You were so hateful that I knew I'd done my job well. So we endured it. I made you dress like that so Amarantha wouldn't suspect, and made you drink the wine so you would not remember the nightly horrors in that mountain. And that last night, when I found you two in the hall, I was jealous. I was jealous of him and pissed off that he used the one shot of being unnoticed not to get you out, but to be with you. And Amarantha saw that jealousy. She saw me kissing you to hide the evidence, but she saw why. For the first time, she saw why. So that night, after I left you, I had to service her. She kept me there longer than usual, trying to squeeze the answers out of me. But I gave her what she wanted to hear. That you were nothing. That you were human garbage. That I'd use and discard you. Afterward, I wanted to see you. One last time. Alone. I thought about telling you everything. But who I'd become, who you thought I was, I didn't dare shatter that deception. But your final trial came, and when she started torturing, something snapped in a way that I couldn't explain. Only that seeing you bleeding and screaming undid me. It broke me at last. And I knew, as I picked up that knife to kill her, I knew that right then what you were. I knew that you were my mate. and you were in love with another male and had destroyed yourself to save him, and that I didn't care. If you were going to die, I was going to die with you. I couldn't stop thinking over and over as you screamed, as I tried to kill her. You were my mate, my mate, my mate. But then she snapped your neck. Tears rolled down his face. And I felt you die, he whispered. Tears were sliding down my own cheeks. And this beautiful, wonderful thing that had come into my life, this gift from the cauldron, it was gone. In my desperation, I clung to that bond, not the bargain. The bargain was nothing. The bargain was like a cobweb. But I grabbed that bond between us and I tugged. I willed you to hold on, to stay with me. Because if we could get free, then all seven of us were there. We could bring you back. And I didn't care if I had to slice into all their minds to do it. I'd make them save you. His hands were shaking. You'd freed us from your last breath. You'd freed us with your last breath. In my power, I wrapped my power around the bond, the mating bond. I could feel you flickering there, holding on. Home. Home had been at the end of that bond. I told the bone carver, not Tamlin, not the spring core, but Rhysand. So Amarantha died, and I spoke to the High Lords mind to mind, convincing them to come forward to offer that spark of power. None of them disagreed. I think they were too stunned to think of saying no. And I again had to watch as Tamlin held you, kissed you. I wanted to go home, to Valaris, but I had to stay, to make sure things were set in motion, that you were all right. So I waited as long as I could, then I sent a tug through the bond. Then you came to find me. I almost told you then, but you were so sad and tired. And for once, you looked at me like I was worth something. So I promised myself that the next time I saw you, I'd free you from the bargain. Because I was selfish, and I knew that if I let go right then, it'd lock you up, and I'd never get to see you again. When I went to leave you, I think transforming you into Fae made the bond lock into place permanently. I'd known it existed, but it hit me then. Hit me so strong that I panicked. I knew if I stayed a second longer, I'd damn the consequences and take you with me, and you'd hate me forever. I landed at the night court right as Moore was waiting for me, and I was so frantic, so unhinged that I told her everything. I hadn't seen her in 50 years, and my first words to her were, "She's my mate." And for 3 months, I tried to convince myself that you were better off without me. I tried to convince myself that everything I'd done had made you hate me. But I felt you through the bond. Through your open mental shields, I felt your pain and sadness and loneliness. I felt you struggling to escape the darkness of Amarantha the same way I was. I heard you were going to marry him, and I told myself you were happy. I should let you be happy, even if it killed me. Even if you were my mate, you'd earn that happiness. The day of your wedding, I'd planned to get rip-roaring drunk with Cassian, who had no idea why, but then I felt you again. I felt your panic and despair and heard you beg someone, anyone, to save you. I lost it. I went out to the wedding and barely remembered who I was supposed to be, the part I was supposed to play. All I could see was you in your stupid wedding dress, so thin, so thin and pale, and I wanted to kill him for it. But I had to get you out. Had to call in that bargain just once to get you away, to see if you were all right. Rhys looked up at me, eyes desolate. It killed me, Feyre, to send you back. To see you waste away month by month, it killed me to know he was sharing your bed. Not just because you were my mate, but because I. He glanced down, then up at me again. I knew. I knew I was in love with you the moment I picked up the knife to kill Amarantha. When you finally came here, I decided I wouldn't tell you any of it. I wouldn't let you out of the bargain because your hatred was better than facing the two alternatives, that you felt nothing for me, or that you might feel something similar and I let myself love you, you would be taken from me. The way my family was, the way my friends were. So I didn't tell you. I watched as you faded away until that day. That day he locked you up. I would have killed him if he'd been there. But I broke some very, very fundamental rules in taking you away. Emran said that I got you to Emran said that if I got you to admit that we were mates, it would keep any trouble from our door. But I couldn't force the bond on you. I couldn't try to seduce you into accepting the bond either, even if it gave Tamlin license to wage war on me. You have been through so much already. I didn't want you to think that everything I did was to win you, just to keep my lands safe. But I couldn't. I couldn't stop being around you and loving you and wanting you. I still can't stay away. He leaned back, losing a long breath. Slowly, I turned around to where the soup was now boiling and ladled into a bowl. He watched every step I took to the table, the steaming bowl in my hands. I stopped before him, staring down, and I said, "You love me?" Reese nodded, and I wondered if love was too weak a word for what he felt, what he'd done for me, for what I felt for him. I set the bowl down before him. Then eat. My feet are not kicking; they're firmly planted on the floor. I will, I will have you know. Um, but I want to kick my feet. Then eat. They're perfect for each other. They are absolutely perfect for each other. My God, what a freaking chapter! What he went through. What he went through. Because I'll say, I'll say this: the things that I, I will read chapter 55. Don't worry. Um, the things that he had to put himself through and like sacrifice his humanity, doing what he did under the service of Amarantha. That incredibly tough, right? So tough, because you're essentially killing your soul one piece at a time for 50 years. But the mask he had to put on to keep Feyre safe, the fact that he did everything he could to make her hate him, even though he loved her already, like dreamt about her, thought about her, was already obsessed with her, and finally love her. And he, to keep her safe, had to put on that mask and essentially be terrible for her. I that had to that had to destroy him. That had to destroy him. Then eat. Mm, what what a line. What a line. Thank you guys. Thank you to everyone. There's so many people. There's over 100 people in here. This amazing. So glad you're here for this. Um, I love this book so much. I will be honest. I will be honest. I did not think that I would enjoy. I I knew the book was good. Okay, too many people have read it, and too many people enjoy it. Wow, too many people enjoy it for it not to be good. At least I didn't expect to like essentially get obsessed with it. It's so fucking good. Sarah J. Maas is such an amazing writer. Okay. I really want to keep reading. Like, I should, like engage and like all of you guys are here to support and that's so amazing. I really want to go back to reading. Um so I'm going to do that. Read? Yeah, read. Okay. Oh, I do know that there's going to be some spice in the next chapter. Um I figure it's the next chapter because I'm only reading two chapters. Um, there are words I'm going to not say out loud for obvious reasons. Use context clues. Generally, genitalia and other those other words that they don't they don't like very much. Um, enjoy. Chapter 55. Change the wording. I am not. I am not like creative enough to think of synonyms on the spot like that. Use candy. All right, I'll try my best. How about that? I'm just gonna give you the eyebrow. How about that? When there's a word that I'm not supposed to say, I'm just gonna give you my usual eyebrow. You'll know. All right. Chapter 55. I watched him consume every spoonful, his eyes darting between where I stood and the soup. When he was done, he set down his spoon. Aren't you going to say anything? He said at last. I was going to tell you what I decided the moment I saw you on the threshold. Reese twisted in his seat towards me. And now, aware of every breath, every movement, I sat on his lap. His hands gently braced my hips as I studied his face. And now I want you to know, Recent, that I love you. I want you to know. His lips trembled, and I brushed away the tear that escaped down his cheek. I want you to know, I whispered, that I am broken and healing, but every piece of my heart belongs to you, and I am honored to be your mate. Mm. His arms wrapped around me as he pressed his forehead to my shoulder, his body shaking. I stroked a hand through his silken hair. I love you, I said again, and I hadn't dared say the words in my head. And I'd endure every second of it over again so I could find you. And if war comes, we'll face it together. I won't let them take me from you, and I won't let them take you from me either. Reese looked up, his face gleaming with tears. He went still as I leaned in, kissing away one tear, then the other, as he had once kissed away mine. When my lips were wet and salty with them, I pulled back far enough to see his eyes. You're mine, I breathed. His body shuddered with what might have been a sob, but his lips found my own. It was gentle, soft, the kiss he might have given me if it had been granted time and peace to meet across our two separate worlds, to court each other. I slid my arms around his shoulders, opening my mouth to him, and his tongue slipped in, caressing my own. Mate, my mate. He hardened against me, and I groaned into his mouth. The sound snapped whatever leash he'd had on himself, and Reason scooped me up in a smooth movement before laying me flat on the table. I know where this is going. Amongst and on top of all the paints. He deepened the kiss, and I wrapped my legs around his back, hooking him closer. He tore his lips from my mouth to my neck, where he dragged his teeth and tongue down my skin as his hand slid under my sweater and went up to cup my. I arched into the touch and lifted my arms as he peeled away from my sweater in one easy motion. Reese pulled back to survey me, my body naked from the waist up. Pain soaked into my hair, my arms, but all I could think was his mouth as it lowered to my and his tongue flicking against mine. Beep. I plunged my fingers into his hair, and he braced a hand beside my head, smack atop a palette of paint. He let out a low laugh, and I watched breathless as he took that hand and traced a circle around my breast, then lower until he painted a downward arrow beneath my belly button. "Lest you forget where this is going to end," he said. I snarled at him, a silent order, and he laughed again, his mouth finding my other breast. He ground his hips against me, teasing me so horribly that I had to touch him, had to just feel more of him. There was paint all over my hands, my arms, but I didn't care as I grabbed at his clothes. He shifted enough to let me remove them, weapons and leather thudding to the ground, revealing that beautiful tattooed body, the powerful muscles and wings now peeking above them. My mate. My mate. His mouth crashed into mine, his bare skin so warm against my own, and I gripped his face, smearing paint there too, smearing it in his hair, until the gray streaks of blue and red and green ran through it. His hands found my waist, and I bucked my hips off the table to help him remove my socks, my leggings. Reese pulled back again, and I let out a bark of protest that choked off into a gasp as he gripped my thighs and yanked me to the edge of the table. Through paints and brushes and cups of water, hooked my legs over his shoulders to rest on either side of those beautiful wings, and knelt before me. Knelt on those stars and mountains inked on his knees. He would bow to no one and nothing but his mate, his equal. The first lick of Rizan's tongue set me on fire. "I want you splayed out on the table like my own personal feast." He growled his approval of my moan, my taste, and unleashed himself on me entirely. A hand pinning my hips to the table, he worked me in great sweeping strokes, and when his tongue slid inside me, I reached up to grip the edge of the table, to grip the edge of the world that that I was very near to falling off. He licked and kissed his way up to the apex of my thighs, just as his fingers replaced where his mouth had been, inside me as he sucked, his teeth scraping ever so slightly. I bowed off the table as my climax chattered through me, splintering my consciousness into a million pieces. He kept licking me, fingers still moving. "Reese," I rasped. Now. I wanted him now. 1 second. Y'all having fun? Tea break. I'm having fun. Mm, 1 second. There we are. All right, I'll keep going. Now, I wanted him now, but he remained kneeling, feasting on me, that hand pinning me to the table. I went over the edge again, and only when I was trembling, half sobbing, limp with pleasure, did Reese rise from the floor. He looked me over, naked, covered in paint, his own face and body smeared with it, and gave me a slow, satisfied male smile. "You're mine," he snarled, and hefted me up into his arms. I wanted the wall, wanted him to just take me against the wall, but he carried me into the room. I'd been carried me into the room I'd been using to set me down on the bed with heartbreaking gentleness. Whole and naked, I watched as he unbuttoned his pants, and the considerable length of him sprang free. My mouth went dry at the sight of it. I wanted him, wanted every glorious inch of him in me, wanted to claw at him until our souls were forged together. He didn't say anything as he came over me, wings tucked in tight. He'd never gone to bed with a female while his wings were out, but I was his mate. He would yield only for me, and I wanted to touch him. I leaned up, reaching over his shoulder to caress the powerful curve of his wing. Reese shuddered, and I watched his twitch. "Play later," he ground out. Indeed. His mouth found mine, the kiss open and deep, a clash of tongues and teeth. He laid me down on the pillows, and I locked my legs around his back, careful of the wings. Though I stopped caring as he nudged at my entrance and paused. "Play later," I snarled into his mouth. Reese laughed in a way that skidded along my bones and slid in, and in, and in. I could hardly breathe, hardly think beyond where our bodies were joined. He stilled inside me, letting me adjust, and I opened my eyes to find him staring down at me. "Say it again," he murmured. I knew what he meant. "You're mine," I breathed. Reese pulled out slightly and thrust back in slow, so tortuously slow. "You're mine," I gasped out. Again he pulled out, then thrust in. "You're mine." Again, faster, deeper this time. I felt it then, the bond between us, like an unbreakable chain, like an undimmable ray of light. With each pounding stroke, the bond glowed clearer and brighter and stronger. "You're mine," I whispered, dragging my hands through his hair, down his back, across his wings. My friend through many dangers. My lover who had healed my broken and weary soul. My mate who had waited for me against all hope, despite all odds. I moved my hips in time with his. He kissed me over and over, and both of our face until both of our faces turned damp. Every inch of me burned and tightened, and my control slipped entirely as he whispered, "I love you." Release tore through my body as and he pounded into me, hard and fast, drawing out my pleasure until I felt and saw and smelled that bond between us, until our scents merged, and I was his and he was mine. And we were the beginning and the middle and end. We were a song that had been sung from every first ember of light in the world. Reese roared as he came, slamming into the hilt. Outside, the mountains trembled, the remaining snow rushing from them in a cascade of glittering white, only to be swallowed up by the waiting night below. Silence fell, interrupted only by our panting breaths. I took his paint-smeared face between my own colorful hands and made him look at me. His eyes were radiant like the stars I'd painted once, long ago, and I smiled at Reese as I let that mating bud shine clear and luminous between us. How are we doing? Oh, there's still plenty of chapter left. Keep going. All right. I'll keep going. I'm doing great, Jennifer. I don't know how long we lay there, lazily touching each other, as if we might indeed have all the time in the world. I think I fell in love with you, Reese murmured, stroking a finger down my arm. The moment I realized you were cleaving those bones to make a trap for the Midgard worm. Or maybe the moment you flipped me off for mocking you. It reminded me so much of Cashin. For the first time in decades, I wanted to laugh. You fell in love with me, I said flatly, because I reminded you of your friend. He flicked my nose. I fell in love with you, smartass, because you were one of us, because you weren't afraid of me, and you decided to end your spectacular victory by throwing that piece of bone at Amarantha like a javelin. I felt Cassian's spirit beside me in that moment and could have sworn I heard him say, "If you don't marry her, you stupid prick, I will." I huffed a laugh, sliding my paint-covered hand over his tattooed chest. Paint, right. We were both covered in it. So was the bed. Reese followed my eyes and gave me a grin that was positively wicked. How convenient that the bathtub is large enough for two. My blood heated, and I rose from the bed only to have him move faster, scooping me up in his arms. He was splattered with paint, his hair crusted with it, and his poor, beautiful wings. Those were my handprints on them. Naked, he carried me to the bath, where the water was already running, the magic of this cabin acting on our behalf. He strode down the steps into the water, his hiss of pleasure a brush again of air against my ear, and I might have moaned a little myself when the hot water hit me as he set us both down in the tub. A basket of soaps and oils appeared alongside along the stone rim, and I pushed off him to sink further beneath the surface. The steam wafted between us, and Reese picked up a bar of that pine tar smelling soap, and handed it to me, then passed the wash rag. Someone, it seems, got my wings dirty. My face heated, but my gut tightened. Illyrian males and their wings. So sensitive. I twirled my finger to motion him to turn around. He obeyed, spreading those magnificent wings enough for me to find the paint stains. Carefully, so carefully, I soaped up the washcloth and began wiping the red and blue and purple away. The candlelight danced over his countless faint scars, nearly invisible save for the harder bits of the membrane. He shuddered with each pass, hands braced on the lip of the tub. I peeked over his shoulder to see the evidence of that sensitivity and said, "At least the rumors about wingspan correlating with the size of other parts were right." His back muscles tensed as he choked out a laugh. Such a dirty, wicked mouth. I thought of all the places I wanted to put that mouth and blushed a bit. "I think I was falling in love with you for a while," I said, the words barely audible over the trickle of water as I watched his beautiful wings. But I knew on Starfall, or came close to knowing, and I was so scared of it that I didn't want to look closer. I was a coward. You had perfectly good reasons to avoid it. No, I didn't. Maybe thanks to Tamlin, yes, but it had nothing to do with you, Reese. Nothing to do with you. I was never afraid of the consequences of being with you. Even if every assassin in the world hunts us, it's worth it. You are worth it. His head dipped a bit, and he said hoarsely, Thank you. My heart broke for him then. For the years he's been thinking the opposite. I kissed his bare neck, and he reached back to drag a finger down my cheek. I finished the wings and gripped his shoulder to turn him to face me. What now? Wordlessly, he took the soap from my hands and turned me, rubbing down my back, scrubbing lightly with the cloth. It's up to you, Reese said. We can go back to Valaris and have the bond verified by a priestess. No one like Iantha, I promise, and be declared officially mated. We could have a small party to celebrate. Dinner with our cohorts, unless you'd rather have a large party, though I think you and I are in agreement about our version for them. His strong hands kneaded muscles that were tight and aching in my back, and I groaned. We could also go before a priestess and be declared husband and wife as well as mates, if you want a more human thing to call me. What will you call me? Mate, he said. The also calling you my wife sounds mighty appealing too. His thumbs massaged the call of my spine. Or if you want to wait, we can do none of those things. We're mated. Whether it's shattered across the world or not, there is no rush to decide. I turned. I was asking about Jorian, the king, the queens, and the cauldron, but I'm glad to know I have so many options where our relationship stands, and that you'll do whatever I want. I must have you wrapped completely around my finger. His eyes danced with feline amusement. Cruel, beautiful thing. I snorted. The idea that he found me beautiful at all. You are, he said. You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I thought that from the first moment I saw you in column 9. And it was stupid. Stupid for beauty to mean anything at all, but my eyes burned. Which is good, he added, because you thought I was the most beautiful male you've ever seen. So it makes us even. I scowled and he laughed, hands sliding to grip my waist and tug me to him. He sat down on the built-in bench of the tub, and I straddled him, idly stroking his muscled arms. Tomorrow, Reese said, features becoming grave. We're leaving tomorrow for your family's estate. The Queens sent word. They return in 3 days. I started. You're telling me this now? I got sidetracked, he said, his eyes twinkling. And the light in those eyes, the quiet joy, they knocked the breath from me. A future. We would have a future together. I would have a future. A life. His smile faded into something odd, something reverent, and I reached out to cup his face in my hands, to find my skin glowing. Faintly, as if some inner light shone beneath my skin, leaking out into the world. Warm and white light, like the sun, like a star. Those wonder-filled eyes met mine, and Reese ran a finger down my arm. Well, at least now I can glow, that I literally make my mate glow with happiness. I laughed, and the glow flared a little brighter. He leaned in, kissing me softly, and I melted for him, wrapping my arms around his neck. He was rock hard against me, pushing against where I sat poised right above him. All it would take would be one smooth motion and he'd be inside me. But Reese stood from the water, both of us dripping wet, and I hooked my legs around him as he walked us back to the bedroom. The sheets had been changed by the domestic magic of the house, and they were warm and smooth against my naked body as he set me down and stared at me. Shining. I was shining bright and pure as a star. Day court? I asked. I don't care, he said roughly and removed the glamour from himself. It was a small magic, he'd once told me, to keep the damper on who he was, what his power looked like. As the full majesty of him was unleashed, he filled the room, the world, my soul, with glittering ebony power. Stars and wind and shadows, peace and dreams, and the honed edge of nightmares. Darkness rippled from him like tendrils of steam as he reached out a hand and laid it flat against the glowing skin of my stomach. That hand of night displayed, the light leaking through the wafting shadows, and I hoisted myself up on my elbows to kiss him. Smoke and mist and dew. I moaned at the taste of him, and he opened his mouth for me, letting me brush my tongue against his, scrape it against his teeth. Everything he was had been laid before me. One final question. I wanted it all. I gripped his shoulders, guiding him into the bed, and when he lay flat on his back, I saw the flash of protest at the pinned wings. But I crooned, "Lyrian baby," and ran my hands down his muscle abdomen. Further, he stopped objecting. Yeah, that'll do it. He was enormous in my hand, so hard, yet so silken that I just ran a finger down him in wonder. He hissed, twitching as I brushed my thumb over the tip. I smirked and did it again. He reached for me, but I froze him with a look. "My turn," I told him. Reese gave me a lazy male smile before he settled back, tucking a hand behind his head, waiting. Cocky bastard. So I leaned down and put my mouth on him. He jerked at the contact with a bark, "Shit," and I laughed around him, even as I took him deeper into my mouth. His hands were now fisted in the sheets, white-knuckled as I slid my tongue over him, grazing slightly with my teeth. His groan was fire to my blood. Honestly, I was surprised he waited the full minute before interrupting me. Pouncing was a better word for what Reese did. Yes, I'm thirsty, fuck off. One second he was in my mouth, my tongue flicking over the broad head of him. The next, his hands were on my waist, and I was being flipped onto my front. He nudged my legs apart with his knees, spreading me as he gripped my hips, tugging them up, before he sheathed himself deep in me with a single stroke. I moaned into the pillow at every glorious inch of him, rising onto my forearms as my fingers grappled into the sheets. Reese pulled out and plunged back in, eternity exploding around me in that instant, and I thought I might break apart from not being able to get enough of him. "Look at you," he murmured as he moved in me and kissed the length of my spine. I managed to rise up enough to see where we were joined, to see the sunlight shimmer off me against the rippling night of him, merging and blending and reaching. And the sight of it wrecked me so thoroughly that I climaxed with his name on my lips. Reese hauled me up against him, one hand cupping my breast. I don't know if I can say that one. And the other rolled and stroked that bundle of nerves between my legs. And I couldn't tell where one climax ended and the second began as he thrust in again and again, his lips on my neck, on my ear. I could die from this, I decided, from wanting him, from the pleasure of being with him. He twisted us, pulling out only long enough to lie on his back and hold me over him. There was a glimmer in the darkness, a flash of lingering pain, a scar. And I understood why he wanted me like this, wanted to end it like this, with me astride him. It broke my heart. I leaned forward to kiss him, softly, tenderly, and as our mouths met, I slid onto him, the fit so much deeper, and he murmured my name into my mouth. I kissed him again and again, and I rode him gently. Later, there would be other times to go hard and fast, but right now, I wouldn't think of what I wouldn't think of why this position was one he wanted to end in, to have me banished, the stain dark with the light. But I would glow. For him, I'd glow. For my future, I'd glow. So I sat up, hands braced on his broad chest, and unleashed that light in me, letting it drive out the darkness of what had been done to him, my mate. my friend. Reese barked my name, thrusting his hips up. Starch wheeled as he slammed deep. I think the light pouring out of me might have been starlight, or maybe my own vision fractured as his release as release barreled into me again, and Reese found his, gasping my name over and over as he spilled himself into me. When we were done, I remained atop him, fingers digging, fingertips digging into his chest, and marveled at him, at us. He tugged on my wet hair. We'll have to find a way to put a damper on that light. I can keep the shadows hidden easily enough, but you only lose control of those when you're pissed. Hold on, I don't know who's reading. But you only lose control of those when you're pissed. And since I have every intention of making you as happy as a person can be, I have a feeling we'll need to learn to control that wondrous glow. Always thinking, always calculating. Reese kissed the corner of my mouth. You have no idea how many things I've thought up when it comes to you. I remember mention of a wall. His laugh was sensual promise. Next time, Farah, I'll fuck you against the wall. Hard enough to make the pictures fall off. Reese barked a laugh. Show me again what you can do with that wicked mouth. I obliged him. Hell of a scene. Oh, I'm almost done. It was wrong to compare, because I knew probably every high lord could keep a woman sleeping all night, but reason was ravenous. I got perhaps an hour total of sleep that night, though I suppose I was to equally share the blame. I couldn't stop, couldn't get enough of the taste of him in my mouth, the feel of him inside me. More, 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 until I thought I might burst out of my skin from pleasure. It's normal, Reese said around a mouthful of bread as we sat at the table for breakfast. With I, I thought that said a mouthful of breast for a second, which interesting time to have a conversation. But one sec. Oh, all right. It's normal. Reese said around a mouthful of bread as we sat at the table for breakfast. We barely made it onto the kitchen. He'd taken one step out of bed, giving me a full view of his glorious wings, muscled back, and that beautiful backside, and I leaped on him. We tumbled to the floor, and he shredded the pretty little area rug beneath his talons as I rode him. What's normal? I said. I could barely look at him without wanting to combust. The frenzy, he said carefully, as if fearful the wrong word might send us both hurtling for each other before we could get sustenance into our bodies. When a couple accepts the mating bond, it's overwhelming. Again, harkening back to the beast we once were. Probably something about ensuring the female was impregnated. My heart paused at that. Some couples don't leave the house for a week. Males get so volatile that it can be dangerous for them to be in public anyway. I've seen males of reason and education shatter a room because another male looked too long at their mate's direction, too soon after they've been mated. I hissed out of breath. Another shattered room flashed in my memory. Reese said softly, knowing what haunted me. I'd like to believe I have more restraint than the average male, but be patient with me, Farah, if I'm a little on edge. Then he'd admit that much. That he'd admit that much. You don't want me to leave this house. I want you to stay in that bedroom and fuck you until we're both hoarse. That fast, I was ready for him, aching for him, but we had to go. Queens, cauldrons, Turian, war. About pregnancy, I said. I might as well have thrown a bucket of ice over both of us. We didn't. I'm not taking a tonic. I haven't been, I mean. He set down his head. Do you want to start taking it again? If I did, if I started today, it'd negate what we'd done last night, but if I'm a High Lord's mate, I'm expected to bear offspring, aren't I? So perhaps I shouldn't. You not expected to bear me anything, he snarled. Children are rare, yes. So rare and so precious. But I don't want you to have them unless you want to. Unless we both want to. And right now, with this war coming, with Hybern, I'll admit that I'm terrified at the thought of my mate being pregnant with so many enemies around us. I'm terrified of what I might do if you're pregnant and threatened or harmed. Something something tight in my chest eased, even as a chill went down my back, as I considered that power, that rage that sin at the night court unleashed upon the earth. Then I'll start taking it today once we get back. I rose from the table on shaking knees and headed for the bedroom. I had to bathe. I was covered in him. My mouth tasted of him, despite breakfast. Reese said softly from behind me, I will be happy beyond reason, though, if one day you did honor me with children, to share that with you. I turned back to him. I want to live first, I said, with you. I want to see things and have adventures. I want to learn what it is to be immortal, to be your mate, to be part of your family. I want to be ready for them. And I selflessly want to have you all to myself for a while. His smile was gentle, sweet. You take all the time you need. And if I get you all to myself for the rest of eternity, I won't mind that at all. I made it to the edge of the bath before Reese caught me, carried me into the water, and made love to me, slow and deep, amidst the billowing stream. And that is the end of chapter 55. I can definitely see what you all wanted me to read those. That was that was beautiful. It was heartbreaking. It was sexy. It was a plethora of things. Such great writing. Um, yeah, I loved it. Uh, up there, it's up there on some of my favorite like passages from any book. I have no idea. I know I need to make a video about my reaction to it. I have no idea what to say. That was perfection. Hopefully I go one more chapter. No, that is all the reading. My voice is kind of shot. I have been reading for an hour and a half straight. So, um, perfection is the best word. Yeah, I couldn't. I couldn't agree more. I will ruminate on what I've read. I may even reread it to myself. Honestly, it was God. It was amazing. And everyone. And yes, the first book there was not much spice. Um, that was hot. Second book beats it by a country mile. That was great, just spicy enough. Um, because Sarah telling me to take it all in. Hey, it's my job. Stop it. The next book is favorite. Everyone has a different favorite book. No one's okay. The first book is no one's favorite, apparently. Um, but everyone has a different book in the series that's their favorite, apparently. Second, third, and last, Nestas, um, is are apparently the top three picks. I'm loving this one. The obviously I'm on the second one. I've only read the first one and this. Uh, so so far, Mist and Fury is my favorite. Um, but fuck, I'm kind of shell shocked. Like when you get out of a really good movie, like one of those movies that just blow you away, and your brain still hasn't caught up. That's how I feel right now. Um, yeah, which I've been reading for about as long as a movie lasts, about an hour and a half. Um, uh, the Spice Notes of 3000, you won't be able to read alive. Echoes of what SF is Silver Flames, right? Is that the last one? Silver Flames, yeah. Silver Flames is the last one. I'm guessing Nesta's, right? I hope. I hope I end up liking Nesta because right now, not the biggest fan. Much more spicy. Okay. I look forward to it. I do enjoy spice. Sounds like I'm not gonna be able to read it to you, but um, keep keep people asking to co-host. Stop it. Okay. I can't tell you how thankful I am for all of you for showing up, showing the support, listening to me read. I really hope you enjoyed it. I definitely did. I enjoy reading it. I got to practice some of my narration skills. Um, and I hope you enjoyed. That's gonna be it for me. I hope you all have a wonderful day, have had a great week, and have an amazing week going forward. Um, Tomorrow's Monday on this side of the world, so try not to kill anybody at work. Try. If you do, you do. If you need to get rid of some, of lots of big trash bags, let me know. But try your best not to kill anybody at work. No promises. That's fair. All right. Well, again, thank you. Have a wonderful night and goodbye.